So this video is going to start off with an absolute disgusting flex. Two MSI Aegis towers that I bought and we're going to be reviewing. MSI Vector RTX 5080 laptop that I'm going to be reviewing. A A1000G that I'm going to be using for a system. You can't see it, but there's actually, maybe you can. There's an A1000G as well in there attached to my eGPU. Couple GPUs here, 5070 Ti Inspire, 5060 Ti Inspire, 5070 Ti Vanguard, an ATX motherboard, an ITX motherboard, an ITX motherboard, and a cooler. Is that everything? Yeah, I think that's everything. I decided to do this because it looks cool. I mean, it's part of it. But I am doing a review. I'm doing a review of that motherboard there. But I just wanted to point out something to you guys. There are YouTubers, I mean, not everybody can do this type of stuff, but there's YouTubers who, like myself, who pride themselves in trying to be as objective as possible. MSI sent me this motherboard, and they sent me this cooler here because they want me to review that. And I thought, you know what, let's just do a review. I asked them if they wanted me to review, and they said yes, so they sent that over and that over. And I bought all the rest of this. This is all my stuff. I buy a lot of MSI products. I daily drive their products myself. Even if I'm using a mini PC, I use their motherboards, sorry, their PSUs and their GPUs. I'm building a system for myself for personal use, which is actually going to use that motherboard, which is sweet. So thank you for sending that over. And then I'm going to be building a test bench with that there. That's going to be that. And I'm going to build something with this as well. But anyways, the point of this is I just want to show you guys that there are some reviewers out there. Now, again, this is all credit card debt. I'm not a rich man. This is just on the credit card and paid off as we go. But there are people out there who I stand behind. Like when I say I like MSI products, I use MSI for myself. I use the brand for myself. And when I recommend, I'm honest, I mean it, it's true. And the reason that I say that is because I've had good experiences with their products. Even if a company sends me over something to review, I will always maintain objectivity. If this product sucks, I'm not going to give it a good review. We'll put it that way. If there's problems with it, I'm going to point the problems out. If it's good, I'm going to talk about the good things. We're going to get to the building phase here. I am going to build in this one as well, but this will be different. I'm going to put in a 7900X. That's, I mean, it's overkill, to be honest, for the system that it's going to go with. But the 5060 is more than enough for, you know, video editing type stuff. It's obviously not going to match the 5070 Ti with the dual encoders, but for the person who's going to be getting that system, once I'm done my review, I'm going to kind of put that thing together there, do its own thing. It'll be its own separate kind of thing. I think the 7900X with the 12 cores, obviously very good. 5060 is going to help with that NVIDIA encoding. So that'll be nice. That'll go in there. This guy's getting the big boy. 9950 X3D. Right now, I guess technically the best you can get. Are they going to make a 9975 X3D or something? Or they do have the X3D too, but it doesn't, it's fine. Okay, so let's compare the two boards here. So we've already talked about the ports, the fact that, you know, this has 2 fewer SATA ports, but there's a lot of other things added, so we know about that. This one here does use a little daughter board, little card. Pop that in right there into what looks like a SODIMM slot. You do add your SATA ports, USB-C, etc. CMOS battery right there. CMOS battery right there. Very easy to access in both cases. You just, if your GPU blocks it, just take the GPU out. You can access the CMOS in both. Now, the one difference here is that to actually get to the CMOS in the previous one, you can see it's actually tucked down inside here. Now, this is a critique. One of my friends has this motherboard, and he has said the same. You know, he's trying to change the CMOS, and he has to actually remove this piece here because the CMOS header is right there. You could get to it, but it's a little difficult. You can see in there. Whereas here, they've basically just shifted it out. And so the CMOS battery is there, but the header is right there. So you could easily get that with the tweezers, pliers, whatever. So that's an upgrade. It's interesting. These little upgrades matter. The fact that you have that quality of life upgrade right there versus over there, it matters, right? Otherwise, you know, they're looking very similar. Like little changes here, CPU, some extra pins and that kind of stuff. Not anything that's like fundamentally different in that regards. We do have a giant stack here for the I/O. We can flip that around. So obviously the I/O is upgraded, right? So here's the new generation, previous generation, the CMOS battery switch kind of stuff there, just over there, whatever. HDMI, same thing. USB-C over here being a 20 gigabit port, that's good. You know, 20 gigabit port, not bad. Over here, we go up to a USB4 though, so that's fantastic. So we get a USB4 port here, and then we have a second USB-C that's still fast, 10 gigabit. 10 gigabit is good for, NVMe enclosures, especially, the 10 gigabit ones, obviously. So that's good. One extra USB-C port, and it's much faster. Very good. Your USB-A, 210, so that's exactly the same. Two slower ones, two more 10. So you actually get faster USB-A ports as well. Same number over there, but faster. 10's the same. Ethernet is also twice as fast. So we get 5 gigabit up from 2.5. The rest is more or less the same. We have actually optical. That's interesting to see there. So this is still good. Like if you can pick one of these up for a good price, it's still a good board, to be honest. But USB 4 is one major upgrade, and just generally an I/O upgrade on the back here is pretty impressive. I like that quite a bit. On the bottom here, it's basically exactly the same. NVMe, so no real difference there, to be honest. You can stick your extra NVMe in there. Very good. Okay, now this is, the I/O shield with all the extra stuff. You don't really have to take that out, just leave it where it is. But we do have another interesting difference here, and that is the PCI slot. You can't tell. This is a Gen 5, this is a Gen 4, so there's just a straight PCI slot increase. That's good, especially for future proofing. This is a fan here. We have a little fan. And underneath here we have our other NVMe. So this one only has two M.2 NVMe slots, one on the back, one right here, and then you have 4 SATA, which is still good, to be honest. Still a lot of 6 storage ports there, but that's different here, because over here we actually have NVMe 1. This has this, I don't know what they call this, I cannot remember. Rather than having to unscrew anything, you can see it just latches in right there, which is lovely. Super, super easy, right? You just latch that in there and just clicks down. I love these, to be honest. Yeah. Okay. Trying to look around my camera. It's a really weird angle. Okay, so there we go. Straightforward enough, right? Okay. That looks good. I love how this video turned into, well, I'm going to build both at the same time. This new 7900X. Nice high core little thing. Look at that. Lovely, 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 lovely. The beast on the right and the semi-beast on the left. Then of course we have this one here. This is going to get the fast one. And in my case, I actually have a Gen 5 drive that I got a while back. So the Gen 5 drive is going to go in there, right here. It's one side, single-sided, which is fine. You don't need any pads or anything on the back. All right, slap that in there. Look at that. Take this off. And away we go. There we go. Now a Gen 5. So another nice drive in there. Very good. And then this one here is going to also take a nice fast SSD as well. Okay, so I also have this, which is another mortgage payment. This is like you could buy a retirement property for this here. So this is RAM. This is a 64 gigabyte kit. Now I didn't buy this now. I had this from before everything went garbage and babaluya, as my father would say. So that's good. Nice. Looks good. Nice white RAM. Imagine like being able to pick the RAM that you want in this market. You can't. But I mean, if you hunt deals, you can still find stuff. A lot of people still have RAM on hand, fortunately. Right? You can still get stuff. It is still possible to buy RAM. 64 might be a little much for a lot of people, but you can still get 16 and 30, even 32 gigabyte kits for a reasonable price if you hunt. If you're patient, you have to be patient, right? Okay, and there we go. That's the 8 terabyte. Just slap that in there. I put some pads on the one side. Literally slap that in. A lot of people look at ITX systems as very intimidating to build. I don't think that's necessarily true at all, to be honest. I've built many ITX systems. You can make ITX builds complicated, like get very super restrictive cases and that kind of stuff. But honestly, there's a lot of good ITX systems, like cases and that out there that are going to be pretty easy to build, honestly. And you're not going to be looking at a headache or anything. So, I mean, look how easy that was to build, right? That's done now. The NVMe, sorry, the CPU's in there. That took 2 seconds, obviously. NVMe 1 took a second or two. This took an extra, maybe a few seconds because I had to put it on, then slap it in. Easy enough. RAM just clicked it in, and the back one very easy as well. So I mean, it's super easy to assemble this here. Now, what I would usually recommend doing, you don't have to, but what I would usually recommend doing is getting all the wires set up beforehand. So, you know, these extra cables, if you're going to use them, like maybe you're not going to use them. I will actually be using some of the SATA and that, so you can get these up here beforehand, slap them in, or get this stuff in beforehand, and then you don't have to deal with them later. I'm probably not going to do it right now just because, I don't know, it looks better on camera if you kind of do it as you're going. Look at that. Nice and clean, even with the thermal pad, no problems there. Can slap on the SATA ports. I'll do the SATA ports later. SATA cables later. Just don't feel like doing it right now. And then we do have our USB-C. The USB-C, you're going to be hooking, or I'm going to be hooking that up to the case itself. So I decided to go with a slightly larger case. I feel like everyone else, when they do SFF videos, they go with like the true smallest SFF, and they're like, because there's like that cutoff of what makes a small form factor system and what does not make a small form factor system. Now this is a Johnsbow case. This one here actually can fit a much bigger system overall, generally speaking. It is a Johnsbow what was the number? 32? Yeah, D32 Pro. You can actually technically get an MATX motherboard in here. You don't have to just use an ITX, which is kind of cool. It's a little bit more versatile than, you know, some of the smaller ones. I could use an NR200, but, you know, then you're kind of stuck with more limited cooling. You could do air cooling for the CPU, that kind of stuff, and, you know, the low profile type coolers. But honestly for me, the way I want to do this, this is my system. So I'm not just looking for it being compact. I want it to be relatively compact, but I want something that also is going to allow me to, you know, really rip. And the GPU is basically sit right about there. Oh wow, it'll actually work. I'd have to like mess around with the case here a little bit. This might actually get in there. This is ridiculous, to be honest, to put this in here, but I think it actually will work. Yeah, this will actually fit in here. I'll just have to go like that. There's like, that's yeah, anyways, we'll figure it out as we go. So this one gives us a little bit more versatility. I was going to use the NR200, but it's just way less versatile. Okay, so we'll just get building. This is not a review of this case, but when you're building, because you can really get to the point where, you know, every little thing is fighting you, cables, all that kind of stuff. This will be a nice, very streamlined, straightforward build. I should probably do this like standing, like actually, you know, lay the case down and go like that. But for filming purposes, this is probably a little easier. Okay. Very nice, very nice. So the Inspire here is small, obviously very small. So that fits in there, and there's tons of room, and especially with the ITX, because this thing can take MATX if need be, but there's loads of clearance down there. Now, hooking up the AIO is actually going to be rather easy. I'm going to mount it like so. Once I get it out of here, get it in here, essentially like that there. Right, like that. That'll go up there. Just hold that in my hand. And then this will slap in there. Basically like so. Alright, so that's the AMD one there. So that'll basically go like that. Right? So we can just swap out these parts here. Very straightforward. We just put like that. Screw them back in, and then they'll be AMD. Right? Slap that in there. Slap that in there. And now all of a sudden we went from Intel to AMD. Keep the Intel ones later, because who knows what I do. I switch stuff all the time. Okay, and because I am a Giga Chad, we are going to use PTM 7950 to make sure we get the best cooling on this thing. So let's get the cooling system hooked up. I'm going to leave the AIO kind of dangling, but we'll just screw that in. We'll be fine. Get that in there. 1, 2, 3. Okay, just going to get it in there enough to bite. Later we'll screw it down, just in case I have to take it out. I don't want to screw up that PTM. So that's basically just floating there now. Wires all plugged in first, and then we'll go like that. Looks like there's going to be enough clearance to without any problems in this case here. So this is looking pretty good. And I'm probably going to cut this into the other video here. I'm building on this other MSI system here. This is the previous generation, the B650i. And there are definitely upgrades to the current one. I mean, the labeling of pumps in that. I mean, like the gray one for the pump is, I can't find it. The layout of things is much improved. I mean, this is still not a bad motherboard. It's not like you're gonna buy this and be like, I hate it, right? But the location of the storage, a little different. You don't have that card out here, so things are actually coming out a little different. And like I said, even like some of the simple things, this was a little harder to get those in. Not the end of the world, but a little harder to get in there. But like, the location of some of these, like where does the pump go? Without looking at the manual, it's really hard for me to read and be like, which of these is, CPU pump versus CPU fan. Like I actually can't see. So now I'm going to have to go to the manual, right? Which, I mean, it's not a big deal, to be honest. It just literally scanned the back of the box and it popped up. But I mean, it's nice that the new one, right? I can just come here and be like, oh, what's what here, right? So that's CPU fan on the left, pump fan on the right, right? So that's pump fan there. But yeah, the new one, it's so obvious. Like it's just very well laid out. It's very obvious that MSI has taken probably, some feedback from people who built with the previous generation. And, they were like, you got to tweak this, make it a little better, make it a little better. Here's what you can improve. And it's very nice that they clearly listened, because the other one, the one that's this video is about, was just, it was so natural to build with, we'll put it that way. Just a straight upgrade, right? Like in terms of features, obviously it's a big upgrade, clearly. Different chip, improved chipset, more, storage, USB4, that kind of stuff, Wi-Fi 7. But the actual motherboard, in terms of like I want to build in this system, it is much easier to build in.
Subscribers, welcome to the live stream of Heroes of Might Magic. Tower's really hard to play because it's so expensive.
Okay, so here it is. It looks so large on camera, but it's really not big. Like it's hand width essentially. It's funny how that works, but yeah, here it is set up. It's actually the next day. I just wanted to use it, essentially. Get it all set up, make sure everything was good to go, get a better idea of how it is. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's an MSI motherboard and a system that I built. How many times have we crossed this road myself? So many times. It looks fire, to be honest. The power supply is right here, so it's gonna be pulling in air out there, exhausting out there. An 850 watt is never gonna try to work for this system here, so it's overkill if anything. Probably could have got by with the 650, but the price was almost the same. I did a little bit of tuning in the BIOS, nothing crazy, but I just tuned the fans down slightly. I'll show you that after. Just a gentler curve is what I did. So it's going to take some time before they ramp up. That's good. I did add that single fan down there. I just had it in my closet. It's not needed. Like honestly, the MSI here, the 5070 Ti Inspire, it's not a hot GPU in general, but there's not a lot of case flow through this case in general. Like there's some, obviously, right? I mean, this is an exhaust, this AIO, so that's just going to naturally pull air from really everywhere, from the here and here. It's just going to pull air into the CPU and cool it down. So there actually is decent airflow. But I thought it would be nice to kind of put this fan down here for two reasons. One, it's going to feed a little bit directly into the GPU. It gives it some more airflow, but actually the back of it will also push some air directly up into the CPU too. So we're actually going to get a pretty cool kind of setup here where it's just kind of moving air through the case this way rather than front to back. Normally I go for front to back airflow. So that's cool. I mean, it's not a review of the case, but whatever, it is what it is. The nice thing about this ITX motherboard, yeah, you can put it in like a real true ITX, very small case, which is great. I mean, I love small form factor type stuff, but it does kind of unlock the ability to work with cases like this that are a little bit more versatile, right? A little bit more versatile, slightly bigger than an ITX, like a tiny little ITX case, but fairly small for like an M-ATX. Like you can put an M-ATX in here, but it gets pretty small at that point. And you get a decent amount of room here. Now the interesting thing is I could actually put a bigger GPU. I could put the Vanguard in there, to be honest, but the Inspire looks better. It just fits the aesthetic of the system here. Whereas the the Vanguard is a big one for like a big gaming, like very focused gaming PC with like RGB and all that kind of stuff. That being said, there's a lot of RGB. The nice thing about this white case here is it's white, so it's going to show color pretty well. So the fact that we don't have a lot of RGB, we have RGB on the two fans here that came with the MSI cooler, like the actual pump where the CPU is there. That's going to also have some RGB, and then just the two RAM sticks. That's all, right? And it's giving a nice subtle RGB effect here, right? It's not like gaudy or anything like that. You could put in some bottom ones here, but I like actually that this is not RGB personally, because really we're focusing on all the RGB from these MSI components up here. Just looks nice. Anyways, so it looks fantastic. It's really good. I mean, again, it's not about the actual build, but it kind of also is. So I've just been messing around here. I just tested the slot just to make sure that it is running at Gen 5 NVMe speeds. I have a Gen 5 NVMe, you can see. And once I said, yeah, it is working, then I was like, all right, let's pause the test. Apparently I started 10 hours ago and I did other things. And I was like, let's pause it because now I want to check temperatures and thermals. So, okay, let's start up here. So you can really get this thing like out of the way, which would actually free up a lot in the front here. If you have a smaller desk too, I have a medium-sized desk. So what I'm getting at here is that I don't want a noisy system on my desk. I can hear that the computer is on, but that's about it. It maybe adds like half a dB to my ambient. There's a bird outside. But, you know, 33.5 is my ambient, so 0.5 dB above that, so nothing, to be honest. Now we're going to run this here. Again, we don't have a lot of airflow through the case. So again, if you had a front to back, I'll just pause here. If we had a front to back airflow case, there's so many case designs, right? But if we had a front to back airflow case or something like that, you would actually get air that would flow directly over that NVMe slot there and probably cool it potentially a little bit better. But overall, we're going to still, I mean, it's a giant hunk of metal, like a huge hunk of metal on that. This is kind of a worst case scenario test here where we have the NVMe in there with not a ton of, you know, front to back airflow that would be flying over the motherboard. So really, this is actually kind of a brutal stress test in the case that, you know, it's not a super, super small case. Yeah, true. But a lot of the airflow is actually going directly out of the GPU. Like it'll go into the GPU, it'll go straight up out the top. Right, this here is going to exhaust and go straight up at the top. There actually is not a lot of airflow over the motherboard components. So yeah, I could create a worse scenario for this, but this is actually a pretty tough scenario for the motherboard component without really a lot of airflow through the case, right? Especially these NVMe's in that. So anyways, so we're looking right here. This is the Western Digital. We'll check the temperatures here. Again, I do expect it to get pretty hot. It will theoretically get up to like 65, 70 degrees by the end of this run. I do not see that it will not do that. That's just Gen 5 kind of stuff. However, I mean, the thing is these are so fast, you're not writing max speed to an NVMe very often. So it's usually short burst work. So there's, you know, as long as this thing can stay cool for a short period of time, I will be very happy with it. I think eventually it will get warmer, right? But I mean, maybe not. I mean, we have that fan in there, right? So my air conditioner just turned on, but whatever. Look at that. Yeah, it's finally starting to get warmer. I'm expecting maybe the rights will get warmer. I don't know. I mean, we haven't even hit 50 yet, and we're done almost half the test. I mean, I keep my house at about 23 to 24 degrees Celsius as like a cool, sometimes hotter, but whatever. Yeah, so now it's writing. It's getting a little warmer there. We can see, finally. Right, so it is getting a little warmer. You're not writing, you know, necessarily at max speed for super long periods of time, even if you're doing like a huge video export or something like that. Like you're not literally writing 14 gigabytes per second. There's no, you need a supercomputer processing some type of video file to do that. So it's running nice and cool. So there we go. Yeah, so that's that there. The Gen 4 is running, Gen 5, sorry, is running very fast. We're no issues there whatsoever. The next thing I want to do is actually test some of the ports. So they say there's USB4 ports on this thing. Let's test that out. Okay, so I have the next drive in there. This is a Samsung 990 Pro inside of a, what the heck was that? Inside of a, this is a Samsung 990 Pro inside of a Thunderbolt 5 enclosure. So we're not going to get Thunderbolt 5 speeds, but we should get Thunderbolt 4 speeds, or USB 4, same thing. Let's see here. So without any tweaking in the BIOS, sometimes, you know, these motherboards, you got to do some like shenanigans to get USB 4 speeds. That was more for the B series stuff. There we go. With the X series 8, the X870 tier, you technically one of the requirements is that you just get USB 4 speeds just out the gate. And you can see here we're getting that. So yeah, that port in the back there, the primary USB 4 is going to be very good. Obviously, you're going to get nice speeds out of it. You know, we're really cooking for ports here on this thing. It's very nice to actually have very fast ports on it. That's one of the reasons that I like these boards. I test a lot of USB 4 peripherals, and it's always nice to have more storage. I mean, this thing does support 3 NVMe's and 2 SATA drives. So especially in this market, I mean, you can get a lot of storage. All things considered, in a tiny little motherboard like that. But it's always nice to have more external. right? Have it be nice and fast, so that's really good. And of course, you can run peripherals, docks, and that kind of stuff for extra goodies. So that's running fast, right? Really, really nice. I mean, I don't need to test every single port. We know what they are. I just wanted to quickly check that USB4 port, and most specifically, I wanted to test it with a Thunderbolt certified. So this is not a USB4 certified enclosure. This is a Thunderbolt certified enclosure. Sometimes you do get wonkiness where, yeah, you don't necessarily get the speed if you're using a Thunderbolt certified. If you're using USB 4, it's not the same. So this is a Thunderbolt certified enclosure, and it does seem to support Thunderbolt. So it does seem to support USB 4. So wonderful. That's very good. Okay, let's do some more testing here. Now, I do these things typically live. Sorry if I don't do the bar chart. The bar charty stuff. I want to check here noise and thermals. So that's chose where, you know, the fan kicks in at a higher velocity, is that the right term? Higher RPM. Anyways, let's run it. Check the noise, check the thermals, all that. I did not. Now you can also, if you want, if you have a 9950 X3D, you can actually lower the max TCP so that the CPU doesn't go to the peak. You can do that, and you actually don't lose like a ton of power. It's your choice. We have liquid cooling here with a pretty decent case, so we're not going to have problems. 41,000 is obviously incredibly good. There was 200 watts right there. I mean, again, you can set this thing to 105 watt eco mode or something like that, and it will run cooler and quieter. You don't lose really much performance, but again, we have a 2-fan liquid cooler here. It's not going to struggle with that. And then the boost is potentially going up and down. It's just sustaining the 200 watts. It'll get a little warm, but it'll take some time, to be honest. There are birds outside. I can't do anything about that. Besides the birds, they're like, it's nice out. So without the birds, we added about 2 dB. This is on the desk now. Like, this is on the desk here, and I would have no problems running this thing full blast Cinebench. It's not bothering me at all. Not at all. Despite, normally I'm very irritated by, computer noise on the desk. You get a system, you set it up, you slap in a CPU, and then you do something CPU heavy, and the AIO is just ripping. Everything's getting hot, but I mean, we're not having that issue here. This AIO is running cool, to be honest, and quiet. That's the thing, cool and quiet. I set the fan to become aggressive at 80, interesting, or I think like 79. I was like, you know what, don't get super aggressive until 79. So it was a pretty gentle, like a really gentle curve where it was like, all right, now we're going to go up where the fan is not going. This fan can go a lot faster if it wants to. But as you can see here, we're not losing any performance. We're rock solid 41,000-ish across the board. It'll bounce up and down by a few points, but it means nothing. So this is your standard MSI motherboard BIOS, which I really like. MSI is my preferred, maybe because I've used it so much. I don't know. It could just be like personal bias, just due to like being comfortable with it. But this is the easy mode. You come in here and you can just flip through your Expo, standard Expo. So Expo 1 gave us 6400. That's what the RAM was rated for. You have stuff like here. Now this is a 9950 X3D. If you're only gaming on it, you can turn on, CPU boost, X3D gaming mode, which disables the dual CCD, which makes it technically better for gaming. Like realistically, it makes it better for gaming. But why would you buy a 9950 X3D if you don't want that second, all those cores, 16 cores? So it's not really that relevant. I mean, technically I'd get better performance if I did that, but I'm fine with this one. We have our fans here, which you can see I've set very low, to be honest. It's nice that those the actual fan spins. That's cool. We have our M.2 1 populated 2 knots SATA. It tells you, obviously. Our memory, that's all good there. The fan curves, as I want to show you this now. This is a very, very gentle curve. You can see how mild that curve is here at 35 degrees. We'll get a little bit more. I could even bring that down, to be honest, where the system is like, there's no noise. And then once we get up to 62, like we're probably doing some stuff now, right? The fans are probably starting to do stuff. And if even at like around here, like where are we at here? 50% at around 80 degrees or something like that. Like that's going to be where like the fans will slowly start to ramp up. But as we saw, it was able to keep itself very cool. Like it never got up to here, right? We never needed that kind of fan. It's there if you need it with this MSI fan, but I don't. Like I don't need it. I'm fine with it running at 70, 75 degrees under full Cinebench load extended and being somewhere around here. Like that's where I want it to be because it'll be nice and cool, nice and quiet. yeah, it's just kind of running. The bottom fan here is like so low. I could probably turn that up a little bit there. It's like barely doing anything, to be honest. Give it a little more juice from the bottom of the case there. Something like that. It's on PWM, but you know, that little bottom fan down there wasn't doing much, to be honest. It was kind of just hanging out there. It was basically just trickling air into the GPU. That's still the same noise, so I might actually turn it up slightly just to give a little bit more juice into the CPU, into the GPU as well. Because I mean, 1200 RPM is not going to be any noisy. Like if you crank it, it'll start to make some noise. But I mean, even that, it probably won't be super noisy. Yeah, I can hear it now. So I would probably have it down here where, you know, 1200 RPM, it's still basically no noisier than all the other components. And so it'll feed a little bit more air rather than when it was like 800 or something like that. So that's good. I mean, there's a lot of tuning in here. It's very straightforward, right? You just go like that. Now we do have more advanced settings here. I did update the BIOS. It's put a BIOS on a FAT32, click that and then follow through. It's very straightforward. You have, you know, performance presets, I just left that. Advanced mode, where are you at in advanced mode? Go to advanced mode over here. There's a lot of stuff you can do in these advanced modes here with MSI. So you have your system components, whatever. But a lot of the stuff that you might want to do here is actually CPU type tuning. So again, we showed here that this CPU is actually totally fine at 200 watts, but I don't know, maybe you live in a super hot environment or something like that, and you're like, you really are just worried about it and you still have the CPU. You can do stuff like you can actually turn down the CPU, like you can actually make it so that it runs at, you know, 105 watt eco mode or something like that. We have all these different settings in here, right? All kinds of tuning. MSI tuning is pretty advanced here, stock to be honest, but you can go TDP. This is like auto will just let it do it at once. But I'm going to be quite honest. I ran a 9950 X3D into my previous system for quite some time at 105 watt eco mode, which is half the watts. And yeah, you lose some performance, but you can watch the Gamers Nexus video on the 7950 X3D. I think I made a video on this actually, now that I think about it. I'm pretty sure I actually made a video about this like 2 years ago. I'm pretty sure I did, now that I think about it. And I showed that, you know, 105 watt eco mode versus 200 watt eco mode is very minimal. You can even do 65 watt if you want. It starts to lose some performance, but it's still fine. But like you could go like, I don't want 120. You could turn these things down. And to be honest, you don't lose that much performance. Honestly, you really don't lose that much performance. But we've shown in this video that this MSI cooler is actually up to the task of handling 200 watts with zero effort whatsoever. So you can do that if you want. It's your choice. Okay, time has passed. I'm not actually sure how long has it been. I forgot when I started, but I'd say at least 15 minutes. Okay, so where are we at for noise? The system is really not any noisier than just I'm doing some basic stuff. It's a little noisier than ambient. Right, idle was, what was it, 34 or so? 34.5. It's really just not an annoying system. Typically in a game like this, especially Cyberpunk, where am I? Especially in a game like this, Cyberpunk, you know, it can get so annoying because you're really hitting the CPU and the GPU at the same time, right? You're just putting a lot of heat into the system, especially with such a high wattage component here. And as you can see here, I mean, we're running at 101 watts on the CPU, so the CPU can do more, but I mean, that's all it needs to. The GPU is obviously just cranking, right? We have 300 watts on that there. That's about peak or so for 5070 Ti. No problems there. Nothing really tuned or anything like that. And yeah, it's running quite well. Obviously, it's a very, very good system. So, okay, so we've been playing for like 20 minutes or something like that. So let's just kick out here. I mean, the GPU is not running hot. It's actually got cooler, probably because we turned down the resolution, so we put a little bit more load on the CPU, which is fine. That's kind of what I wanted to do there. Okay, so what we're going to do here real quick is I'm going to just pop this thing open, and I'm going to quickly, I mean, you guys can actually watch because I have two cameras set up. So I'll show you guys how I do this, just so you know. So we'll come in here. I'm going to get my camera set up, my thermal imaging camera. It's just a little baby thing, but it seems to do a good job overall. So we'll back you up, back that thing up, pop you off. Okay. Now I'm going to really quickly start recording before I take this off. It's not going to evacuate much heat because there's not much going on. So I mean, the exterior of the case, I mean, that's not the point here, but we can see that the airflow is moving as we desired. Let's take that off quickly, get that out of here, and we'll start taking some measurements inside. All right, so let's see. So the GPU hotspot, I would say, like physical hotspot on the exterior. No problems. The connector only 52. That's totally reasonable in there. 54. Motherboard is what this is about, so. I mean, that thing's gonna run cool. That has a little fan on it, obviously. So that's nice and cool. The back of the plate there. Again, this is a terrible case for airflow over the motherboard. This thing is really not getting any air because all the air is going to come out of the bottom from the GPU here and from that fan. And weird, looks like the fan's not turning. Anyways, and that's going to basically go up into the GPU and up into the CPU. So this is actually all starved in here. So this is like a true stress test. Yeah, it's not the smallest case. Like you can get those tiny, tiny, tiny little SFF cases, but some of those can actually have better airflow than this. This is like, there's no air going through this area here. And like, we're not running hot, like 55, 56 degrees as a peak temperature there is nothing. So, I mean, what we have here, let's kick back to the primary camera now. So what we have here is, I mean, we have only, this thing's running very minimally, this fan here, they're all running very minimally because I don't want it to be noisy. So despite that, this motherboard here is basically being starved, right? There's no real airflow at all. Like if I put my hand in here, I can literally, where my fingers are, I can feel zero airflow, zero. I can feel it on my palm because of here, but I can feel zero airflow in here, none at all. Because any of the like trickle of air is coming out of here and running up into there. The trickle in the back there is going directly into the GPU and the GPU is exhausting up into there. If anything, the GPU is exhausting hot air into those components. So this is good to see. Despite the fact that we have a terrible airflow case here, realistically a pretty terrible airflow case for the motherboard, it's running nice and cool. Right? Nothing here is like dangerous. There's no super high temperatures. And again, this is a terrible scenario for this case where we're essentially, I've created a hot pocket on the motherboard because this is feeding the GPU. The CPU is going to be getting a little bit of residual air from there. And again, everything is turned way down in the fan curve. Okay, so I decided to turn that fan up. This is just a cut back. What happens if you actually give that fan a little juice? And you can see here the GPU is running even cooler now. You know, we're quite a bit down, to be honest. 1440p, so we're still at that high resolution. Actually, the CPU is doing a little cooler as well. Just a little bit of that residual cool air going up, and the GPU is way down. So, yeah, I might have had that fan down there tuned a little slow at like 800 RPM. Now it's like 1200, 1300 RPM. You can't hear it. It's no different. But things are running a little bit cooler here overall. So, yeah, I mean, again, that previous part was pretty brutal. And everything was running really well. So, I mean, yeah, the fun thing here is that this is a tiny little GPU for a 5070 Ti. It's the MSI Inspire is, I think as of still right now, I think it's still technically the smallest 5070 Ti on the market, unless like someone has a custom thing. So despite that, it's running really well. It's very well designed. Again, it's not really about that, but that's why I bought it, right? It's tiny, but it's very robust, and you're able to get, 250 watts ripping, 100% usage, obviously. And despite that, you're still getting very good thermals there. So, okay, so that's the system there. I guess it's kind of ended up being like a general MSI review. Sure. I mean, it was the whole point of the video was the X870i, doing a build with it. And it's obviously fantastic. It's really easy to build with, to be honest. Yeah, I'm a pretty experienced system builder, but this was like incredibly easy. Like when you hear ITX, you're like, oh my God, we're going to be building an ITX motherboard. I mean, it's not a super small case, so that makes it a little bit easier as well. But generally speaking, the ITX, like the name ITX, you're like, oh my God, what weird compromises do we have to get with building? None. It's super easy. Like that little card there holds some stuff. You can put your NVMe on there. The other NVMe is on the back anyways, and that one you just pop out as needed. Everything is very easy, super accessible. It's awesome. So the motherboard's great. The feature set is amazing. I mean, dual USB4, good Wi-Fi, temperatures are amazing. All the VRMs and all that are very robust. I mean, it's a high-end board, so you'd hope so. All the extra peripherals, all the extra ports in that are very good. So the motherboard is fantastic. That was the whole point of this build, was really to, I have actually not built with an MSI ITX motherboard. I've actually never, it's been a while since I did an IPX build, and I haven't done an MSI ITX motherboard. So this was a really nice build there in terms of that. So the motherboard is fantastic. 3 NVMe's, 2 SATA, all the extra fixins. It's fantastic. We'll turn this into like another review. I mean, I like this case. Sure, it's a nice little Johnsville case. It's a nice, easy thing to build in. The MSI Inspire 5070 Ti I've had that for a while now. Probably, I think we're coming on like 8 months. I'd have to go back and look at my content, but I think I bought it about 8 or 9 months ago. And I love this GPU. I think it's fantastic. You know, it's not as bulky as a lot of the other GPUs out there. Like, yeah, I have the Vanguard, and it's a big boy. But it's more suitable for like a very large case. You know, you're really focused on like thermals, performance, that kind of stuff. It's a nice, huge, robust GPU. But if you want to build a small case, look at the Inspire. I mean, yeah, normally the Inspire does command a little bit of a premium. It's never been super expensive, but it does command a little bit because it's, you know, a more premium model. But because the market is so screwed up right now with everything being super expensive, the relative price of something like an Inspire versus, you know, like a base one, they're actually pretty close. Honestly, like it's become actually more compelling to buy up the stack slightly because all the prices are up. So, I mean, the relative price is actually pretty good on these. I've been looking at them now and I'm like, man, that's like the same price as like all the intro level 5070 Ti's. So it's becoming more and more interesting. This cooler actually really shocked me. I don't normally like AIOs. If you watch my previous stuff, if you hear me talk about stuff, I don't normally like AIOs because they're loud, right? The ambient idle noise of them can be very annoying. They irritate me and I don't like that. And then typically I find that when, you know, you're actually taxing the system, especially with something like a 200 watt CPU, you're like, oh man, this thing, like these fans are starting to get pretty freaking annoying. You're like this noise all the time and it drives me crazy. This, like if I'm building a SFX or an ITX, in this case, an ITX motherboard case, you know, an ITX case in general, or anything that's even an MATX, small MATX, it's going to sit on my desk. It's going to be beside my head. I don't want to be hearing these fans go all the time. And this thing, it's not loud at all. Even under full load, Cinebench full load, these fans are great. So I'm actually a big fan of that cooler as well. That's really nice. So yeah, I kind of scored here. MSI sent over that sweet motherboard. And then I kind of was like, you can send me an MSI cooler if you want. Like, and they were like, yeah, let's do it. Sure, why not? That cooler is really good. And nothing is shocking about the power supply. If you know me, if you've seen my videos, you know that I use MSI power supplies anyways. I bought this, you know, they didn't send anything over, I bought it. I have the 1000GL, A1000GL on the ground on my eGPU, and I have man, what is it called? A1250GS. Jeez. MSI. I only buy MSI power supplies. I mean, if I get like a crazy price error or something on some other brand, whatever, sure, I guess. But if I'm putting my money, I buy the MSI power supplies because one, they are good, they run quiet, and if there's a warranty issue, I know that MSI's got my back. You guys don't understand how important I value warranty. It goes very far for me. Like the fact that I know MSI has good warranty, I've experienced their warranty and it was best in class warranty. It was incredible. It was super, super easy to work with. That really does speak volumes towards my confidence in buying it for myself, obviously, because I don't want something to break, but recommending it. If you know my channel, you know that I'm very hesitant to recommend something that is, you know, potentially down the road, you're going to, look at that reflection, is going to run into some issues. Like every product, every electronic can have problems, right? It's possible. They're electronics. There's power. There's all kinds of stuff that can go wrong. I want to know that if something goes wrong, the warranty has my back. The company has my back. You know me. I'll stand behind the MSI brand until something changes and they, you know, let me down, which they haven't not done yet. And all of my followers in the community that's like not related to my YouTube, but just like the general, you know, build a PC community, especially the Canadian one, there's a very strong sentiment towards MSI desktop components on that community that I'm part of. It's not my community, but I'm part of it. And it's always been very strong there. And that's how I started to get into the MSI stuff in the first place. And that's years. That's been years and years and years and years. And so it's really nice to see that despite the fact that, you know, we've seen 7 or 8 years pass, and now it's 2026, like partway into the year, we're still looking at excellent quality from MSI. So that's really nice.